Happy Mother's Day, everybody who is a mom in this house. Come on, one more time. Let's give it up for all our moms. Let me hear you. If you are a mom, give it up for another mom because you know what it's like to be a mom. Let me hear the moms cheer for the moms. See? Do you see what we were missing in our applause for the moms? We were missing the applause of the moms who are like, I actually know what that's like. And so it was like kind of like this weak sounding applause. And I was listening. I'm like, why does my church suck at applauding the moms right now? And it's because we didn't do it. It's our fault. We should have said it better. And here's how for the rest of our city church's life, we will say it. Hey, we want everyone to give it up for the moms, including those who know what it feels like to be a mom. So one time our city church, would all y'all let the moms know what time it is? Give it up for the moms. You hear that? Hey, Mom, that felt better, didn't it? The first one felt like a golf clap. I was so mad in the back. God had to help me. I was judging so many people in here. I was looking at some of you not clapping that good. I was like, what is that? Who is your pastor? It's not me. Hey, I want to welcome everyone watching online or listening to this on our podcast. And of course, I want to send a special happy Mother's Day to my grandma, Grandma Donna, and also to my mom watching, and to my sister-in-law, Leah, my sister-in-law, Juanita, and my sister-in-law, Rocio. I know you're not watching, but I know Brenda will send this to you now because I said your names. Orale. And I love you so much. And we're so grateful for you. And also happy Mother's Day to Brenda, wherever Eliana goes, and is awesome and amazing. It is way more because of you than me, let's be honest. So I'm so grateful that she has you for a mom. And today is such a fun day. We're going to do something today, I think, in our message time that I hope will help every single one of you that are moms and really encourage your heart, help you get great perspective for the important role that you uniquely play. Our world needs moms, and because obviously I'm a pastor and a Bible-believing, Jesus-following, person of faith, I believe we need moms who have a connection to the God that created her and made her and uniquely fashioned her to provide her family and this world, our church certainly, and this whole world with only things that a mom who knows Jesus and is learning who Jesus is and loving Jesus and learning how to follow and make his character her character. We need that more than we might have ever needed it in my lifetime right now. So know that you play such a critical and important part in your family. Yes, you're going to hear about that today, but I, as a pastor, want you to know you play an important part in this church. The church we're building, we can't build if we don't have moms, and we don't have moms that love Jesus and love Jesus' church and what the church is supposed to do. And so thank you so much. I hope today is encouraging for you specifically in that. I also want to talk to everybody about some things that I think will really wrap our hearts and minds around something that I find uniquely. As many of you know, and I want to say thank you to our church. So if you're a guest right now, I'm going to take like a few seconds and not really talk to you, but I want the church to hear. Thank you so much. Last week, 2 weeks ago, when I left to go to South Africa to grieve my friend Pastor Clive and be with his family and with the pastors and the church and all of that, I asked you to come the next week and to be here as a church, to show up. And I know there's some of you that might have had other plans, and because I asked you to do it, you came last week and you were here, and my team said that, and our team was just like, man, the church responded to that. And so thank you for all of you who were able to make it last week and just made a priority of it, and especially if you had to change plans just to be what the church is, right? The church is not a service. The church is a people, and you came together and you were the church last week, and I thank you for that. And it let me be present last week. I'm not going to take time today and talk about that. I do want to, the next time I preach, I really want to share what I saw and what God did and how God used me and just what our church deposited in that area of South Africa. It's a very difficult region. It's a very poor area. I do appreciate, I love going into any part of Africa. I've been to Africa a lot and in Latin America for this reason. But when I was there, I go to the area where in South Africa, you have three different primary ethnicities. You have what they call, and this is their language. Certainly it's not the way we refer to it always, but they call, there's blacks, there's whites, and then there's the coloreds. And so and I hung out mostly with the group of pastors and leaders, and Pastor Clive, he was a part of the ethnicity called the Coloreds there in South Africa. And it's unique when you are a white American and you go into an area where mostly everyone is, they're coloreds or they're black. You're the minority, right? So I do like what that does for me as a leader, as a pastor, as a kingdom builder, because it disrupts my normalcy. And some of us who are the majority in places we go here in our life here, we've never put ourselves intentionally in a place where we are the minority. And it was good. And I've done that a lot. I grew up in a little bit of that, and I've definitely done that in mission trips. But I love going overseas and doing God's work in other places because it helps me be in a different position, to be the one who is the recipient of the majority's treatment, good, bad, or ugly, right? And I was fortunate enough to be very honored, loved, cared for, respected, thought of, considered. They were always looking after, making sure that Pastor Chris was, they really respected and appreciated. And next week, I'm going to play a video. There's a number of pastors that of their own accord said, we want your church to hear how much we appreciate that they got behind and sent you and released you to come do this work. We want your church to hear, we want your family to hear what God did. And so we'll do that next week. But I wanted to say thank you, and I wanted to appreciate that y'all responded and that you've been praying. I've got some messages from you on Instagram, which I don't get on a ton, but I did go in and see the DMs. And so thank you for those of you that reached out and just said, hey, we're praying. And it was I don't want to get into it because me, I'll start like bleeding my heart here. But it was it was painful. He has 3 daughters, 18 years old, 20 years old, and 22 years old. And to watch them and Velda, the wife, just have to deal with that was just, it really sobers you towards what matters. And so I preached to you today from I would say not a new perspective, but maybe a renewed perspective. It kind of just takes all the clutter away. And I am still grieving. I loved Clive. We got close fast, and when you have a friend on the other side of the world, you could tell them everything and they could tell you everything. And so you get close because you're not really worried about anyone hearing about your business because it's like, who are you going to tell? You don't know anybody. Right? And so we were able to really process that. And they asked me to speak at the funeral and at the gravesite. And so I'm going to give you an update next week. I'm like so close to giving you it right now. I got to get off this thing. So if you have a Bible, I want to invite you to open it to Matthew chapter 6. That's the portion of Scripture we're going to study and look at here today. Have you ever gotten together, before I get there, I want to kind of set up today what I want to tell you about. Have you ever gotten together with family or old friends or old coworkers or at a high school reunion or just old friends from school or college, and you kind of do like the reminiscing, right? You talk about the good old days, right? You talk about things that you did. I was on Facebook the other day, and a post came up from the school I went to, and it was like, someone said something like, do you remember all the crazy pranks that happened at our university? And I was like, uh-oh, like, because nobody knows the stuff I was in charge of leading. And I was like, are the statutes of limitations passed for these things? I don't know. I need a lawyer. So, I was thinking, and like, you ever type up a post, and then before you send, like, God speaks to you and is like, this is not wise. Do not do this, right? So I didn't do it. I didn't out myself, but I was laughing at some of them. And then what gave me the wisdom to get off of it was other people started talking about pranks that I led and managed and like brought people together to do it. I always had the ability to lead something great. It wasn't always for really good purposes, but our city church is a redemptive part of my life. But you'll get together and you'll do old high school memories, old, weird coworker stories or weird manager stories. You might get together and do like sports team memories. Remember this one year? Remember that one play? Family moments. You get together with family. You talk about old family moments, growing up family moments. And you either make fun of each other, you laugh, you have a good time, but you're talking about like what was and where it was, and you think about it and it's amazing. And, you find yourself like thinking about that, like reminiscing about that, longing even for that, like considering that, like, oh man, that was the stuff of life, right? And then not only that, but we also have these parts of our life where we're in the hustle and the bustle, right? We're thinking about a one day someday, aren't we, right? We're thinking like, hey, we want a preferred future. We want a better life. I want my kids to have a better life. I want to be able to make more, do more, be more. We've got to go achieve more, have more, accumulate more, live more, have more, right? And so there's this like future aspect of life where we're constantly on the grind and the run, especially like here in this place, like called the beautiful, wonderful, better than ever. Like before, like I would rather be a United States citizen. I tell you, when we landed, I was like, yes, don't get me wrong. I loved it. It was great. But woo, when I landed in Atlanta, I was like, God, it's so good to be back in the United States. I saluted Old Glory so high. It ain't perfect, but it's better, okay, than a lot of other options. You know, like I was very grateful. And yet, when I came on in, I'm sitting here thinking of like, you know, the grind and the future. You just see this like need to go be, grow, accumulate, achieve, succeed, status build, have. We're just on the hustle and the bustle, the grind, the go, the chase. And it was different than the community I was around. There's still the desire to grow and be, but there's this real slow it down and have community time. And so it made me think about my sermon. And I think often like we have this idea where we look backwards at the good old days, right? And we have that. And then we look future to the one day, someday days, right? That the only way we could even tap into some of that emotional like wonder and awe is we think, well, we need to have a really special date night, right? We got to go to a place that has like cloth napkins. You know what I'm saying? You understand, right? That's how you know it's a nice place. By the way, let me just talk to the under 30-year-olds. If you want to impress her, you need to take her to a place that has a cloth napkin, okay? That's just how you know you did it right. If you at a place that has paper napkins, you ain't doing it yet, okay? And don't go ask that dude. Don't go ask dad for nothing. Don't you ever. Hey, tell your kids, tell your sons, if they're around the age of like 8, 9, 10, 11, just know this. They better never come to my house talking about Eliana if she ain't seen a cloth napkin yet. I'm going to be like, look, son, you better go back to school, get a job, do something. But don't come here with that. I've taken her to cloth napkins. She has an expectation. You could, it could be 90-10 to start. Lots of cloth napkins, will come. I don't care if it's paper napkins for a while. That's fine. But you better save some money and have one every now and then. And all the dads of a daughter said, amen. Some of you same dads right now are like, man, shut up, Pastor Chris. I ain't taking my wife to no cloth napkins in a while. I don't need all this. Right? But we think that that's how you're going to have to do like real good living, right? We need to go to a nice place. We need a vacation so that we could, then I got to get away from the grind and the hustle and the responsibilities and the stress and the status and all the stuff we were just, it's on us. We're always like chasing, getting going. And there's a place and an understanding of that, but we almost believe like it's got to be an unbelievable meal. We got to have a better car. We need to move up in house or move up in this or move up in that. We got to have this, be that, go here, do that to be able to have that emotional connection. We have an emotional connection of this commiserating like about the old days, the good old, oh man, remember those days? Man, I wish we could have those days. Or one day it'll be better than it is now, right? So we're able to look ahead at what will be, and that will be the day that we really can enjoy it. Or we could only remember when we were living these days, but quite frankly, you weren't enjoying them then either. And when you get to the future, you won't enjoy it either. Why? Because the same ability that you don't have now to be able to look around and see all that God is giving, blessing, providing you with, you right now don't see it. You ain't going to see it then either. You will stay stuck in a way of thinking that will rob you of enjoying today. That's what I want to talk about, because Jesus doesn't leave us out on this. He knows it's a struggle. So he actually discussed this. He didn't talk about everything, but he did talk about this. And I want to lay it out. I'm going to go a couple places in Scripture, not my normal custom. Normally I stick to one like thing, but there's a few places I just want to read today because I really feel like God's given me this word for you as a mom and for us as a people, as a church here, of how can we shift that, change that, adjust that. The trajectory of your family and your world can change, and the way you talk about today can be as wonderful as you talk about yesterday or tomorrow. Because I find often in my own experience, I have no shortage of passion and emotion when I talk about the wonder of yesterday. Oh, it's the best days, isn't it? It's the days gone by. Oh, we long for those days. Or one day, man, it'll be so good. It won't be like today, right? The struggle I have today. One day I'll get out of this. One day, right? And so we have this like ability to escape towards these one day, someday, or yesterdays. But that's not a biblical perspective, and I want to share it with you today. Most historians would agree that in this space, in Matthew chapter 6, Jesus is giving what is known as one of the greatest speeches of all times. Even if they're not Christian or faith-based historians, this part of Jesus's communication. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. He's on a mount, and he's talking, and there's lots of people listening in, and he goes through a bunch of different topics, man. He covers so much, but it's a brilliant piece of communication. If you are interested in the space of public speaking, and not everyone is, but I was. I always loved the orators. When I grew up, I was attracted, probably because God put a gift on my life, and I didn't know it. Like everyone else knew it because they called me like a bunch of different words. Like, I don't even want to tell you because I don't want you guys to get cute and start thinking you could call me that, like we're that close, because we ain't. And then I'll be mad at you, but I'm your pastor, so I got to act like it's fine. But I'll walk away and be like, man, I would have loved to punch you in your neck right there. But I would never really want to do that, but I would want to do it. Push through it, Chris. Do it. So they listen, what I'm trying to tell you is if you like this stuff, you need to go in and read up on the Sermon on the Mount. Get into it and be like, whoa, because it is brilliant communication, right? It's brilliant. And what Jesus does here is he comes to something. He's talked about the fulfillment of the law given to the needy. He's talked about divorce. He's talked about adultery. He's talked about loving your enemies. He's talked about an eye for an eye and what that means. He's gone over murder. He's talked about so many different things. And then in this incredible, brilliant sermon, he says this. He says, therefore, I tell you, do not worry. Just pause there. Let that sit. Jesus, if you believe in Jesus, not everyone does here today, but if you do, or if you're not a believer in the way of Jesus in terms of like your God, you at least probably are here because you have a mild respect for him historically as a wonderful spiritual leader. So even from that, we could at least all agree, no matter what you do and don't believe about Jesus, we could all agree he had a lot of really wonderful life wisdom. Of course, I believe he's God and he's God's son and he's the sacrifice for my sins, so I put a lot of stake in it. But no matter who you are and where you're at today, we could all look at this and go, dude, this dude was tuned into something else, okay? And what did Jesus say? If you're a believer in Jesus, this is loud and you gotta grab this. He doesn't say, hey, like try to manage your worry a little bit, but it's okay if you let it kind of every now and then control your life. Jesus is pretty clear. He says, do not worry. So there's something about worry. There's something about that he goes, no, I want you need to identify that as an enemy of the soul. This thing is not good. We are not meant to process it. It's not good for our minds, our hearts. There's something about it. Okay, now watch this. He goes on. He says, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothes? Balance it out, Pastor Chris. I will. Why? It's Mother's Day. I want to make sure you understand what I am and I'm not saying. Here's what he's not saying. He's not saying if you're having a hard time picking out your outfit for the day that you have a problem with sin and worry. Just want to be balanced here. That's not what he's talking about. He ain't talking about you can't decide between the flats or the heels. He ain't talking about which earrings you're going to wear. He ain't talking about like what color lipstick you putting on. I just want to make sure all the moms in the house know that is not, Jesus is not super concerned about that right here. There is something way more important than that, okay? He made us the way he made us, and the fact that universally there seems to be this like thing that women do to care and consider, there's something beautiful about the nature of God in that we need from you, and that's wonderful and beautiful, and in its proper place, it's great. But what he is saying is this, listen, when it goes beyond, I wonder which one I'm considering in this, to it is a controlling part of worry, where it's your identity, where you're nothing without what this is who you are, is what you present. This is so, he goes, we're getting beyond it. Now he's not just talking about that, he's talking to men as well. He's saying, do not worry. Don't become consumed with worry. Does that mean be irresponsible, not have a plan, don't have a job, don't save, don't put away for retirement, don't put it away for someday, one day, don't pass down a financial blessing to your children's and your children's children best you can? No, that's not what he's saying at all. What he's saying is this life will consume you with worry if you do something incorrect. And we're going to get to what the incorrect is, but that's what he's setting up. He's setting up, there is a way that this will control you and make you bound to worry. Now, what is the way? Watch. He goes, look at the birds of the air. He's laying out his case. Brilliant communicator. Look at the birds of the air. They don't sow or reap. He was talking to a lot of gardeners, a lot of farmers. They understood, I put a seed in the ground, I water it, I let sunshine hit it, I keep rodents away from it. I water it some more, and then it will produce a crop and a fruit. He says, the birds of the air don't do nothing to get food. What do they do to get food? They don't do nothing. They fly around. And he's like, hey, they are provided for. He says, your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much, listen, somebody needs to hear this. Are you not much more valuable than they? I don't know who needs to hear that today. But somebody under the sound of my voice needs to hear the way Jesus looks at you. He looks at you and says, I find you so valuable that I will provide for you. I will care for you. I will comfort you. I will clothe you. I will make sure you have what you need. You will not always get all you want, but you will always have what you need. If you get caught up chasing what you want, you will not get the things you need. And Jesus says, I will make sure you have what you need. I will take care of you. That is the secret to the worry problem he presented. How can I not live in worry? You live in a state of worry when you allow yourself to forget that he finds you valuable. When you don't believe, when you stop believing, when you start believing another idea about how God views you, that he stares only at your sin, only at your mistakes, only at your failures, only at the fallacies of how you live your life versus what you say you believe about Jesus, and you think he's only staring at that, that's when you stop feeling valuable like any of our children would feel. None of our children would feel confident. They would not walk boldly into life if they had to constantly be worrying about, is dad or mom upset about what I've done wrong? But when they overwhelmingly get to hear encouragement, value, here's who you are, I'm so proud of you, way to go, this is what you did, how do you feel? That's great. When they're feeling much more of that, guess what? Well, then they can go and tackle different stuff. Because why? Because they know they're valuable. When we stop really, truly believing, hearing how valuable God finds us, we start to worry ourselves. Why? Well, God doesn't value me, and if he doesn't value me, he won't provide for me. If he's staring at my sins, my mistakes, my problems, my propensities, my issues, all the brokenness that I bring to the table, and you start really at a core level, you maybe don't say it out of your mouth, but you believe it in your heart. You respond to God that way. And so you leave from this position of God's pissed, God's mad, I've disappointed God. So because God is staring at all my bad, messed up stuff, he must not really value me. I mean, who would value me like that, right? Why? Well, because that's your value system. That's how your brokenness hands out value. You hand out value based on performance. God doesn't. He hands out value based on his character, not your performance. You can't do anything to make him love you more, and you can't do anything to make him love you less. He loves you because he is love, and he values you, period, end of sentence. When you believe that, you don't run from him when you're in mess. You don't run from him when you're a mistake. And you don't run towards things you think will take away your worry. You don't become consumed with having, and if I just had and I just got, and if my kids would just, and me and my husband would, and all this. You're like, shh. He goes, no. You're more valuable. I take care of the birds. I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. Why? I'm providing for the birds. The birds don't do nothing. They don't sow. They don't plant. They don't do nothing. Birds ain't real. That was Pastor Jimmy's heresy. I'm just quoting stuff. Don't do that. I'm easily swayed right now. I'm in a vulnerable state. He says this, ready? Here you go. Put it up there. Verse 27. Now, since some of you do worry as like an art, let me just challenge this. He says this, hey, with that thing you're so good at doing, that worry thing that you think is working for you so well, makes your presence so easy and fun to be around. He goes, can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? Can you hear the wisdom of what he's probably saying? This is called a converse argument. He's saying the worrying you're doing is taking hours away from your life. You're actually introducing something not good for your brain, not good for your heart, not good for your lungs, not good for your major organs, not good for your system. This worry releases a level of cortisol into your bloodstream that goes into your heart and eats away at the lining of your heart. Did you know that? Did you know that a daily dose of unhealthy cortisol is for fight or flight. It's for things you need in the moment, but it's not supposed to be how you live your life. But when you live your life in a constant state of worry and fear and insecurity, and you don't address why that stuff's in there, and you just let it kind of stay in there, and then you're just constantly in fight or flight, cortisol is just the way you live to get by. you will be killing yourself. I talked to my doctor last week. I said, what's the number one thing that you are worried about? What kills more people? He said, stress and worry. It's the number one killer. Some of you watch what you eat. You pay attention to all this stuff, but you don't manage your worry. You don't manage your stress. You don't understand this brilliant piece of wisdom that Jesus gives us. And this is an opportunity for him to look out to you and say, hey, you know, you're not adding hours. You're actually subtracting them. And so we have to get to underneath of that. Like, how do we get to what's underneath it? He goes on and says this. You want to know? Here you go. I mean, this is the answer. Now, some of you, before it comes up, some of you have actually heard this verse. If you've been in church any number of years, 5+, you probably have heard this verse. And if you grew up in church, you for sure enough heard this. In fact, you done heard a song about it. You know the verse. He's going to say that is the answer to your worry. Your worry is because you are building your kingdom. And when you build your kingdom, you are consumed as the king of your kingdom. All the affairs are up to you. Every war is up to you. Every decision is up to you. Every problem you got to solve. Every issue is on you. All the stress, all the burdens, all the trouble, all the issues, it's all on you. And when you live as if you have no king, you got to be the king or the queen of your own affairs, then that's why you take on an unhealthy and out of alignment and unbiblical amount of worry and stress that God did not design you to carry. Why is it? And what's the answer? He says it here. Here's the answer, verse 33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. What does he call right? What does he call virtuous? What does he call true? What does he say is good for your heart? What are the things that clutter the heart, that make the heart wounded? What is the things that he says you got to clear the heart out of that stuff? What does Jesus in his kingdom say is no good for the heart? Well, he in many places says unforgiveness will kill your heart. Bitterness will kill your heart. Your inability to be able to address things you've done wrong and go, hey, I need to acknowledge that I missed the mark here. I missed the mark. I joked around a couple weeks ago on this, but I've never been more convinced of it, that we have to get better as a people. In the church, we have a chance, our city, we get to go model this to our home, to our homes, to our families, and raise up kids that will go model this to the community. We get to do this at work. We get to do this where we're at. We get to talk about it. We're sitting next to another mom watching a game or a dad or the coach you coach with and be like, you know what I've been working on? I've been working on this. I've been working on saying these words. I'm sorry, I missed the mark. I came up short. Some of you have a real hard time with that. And I said it funny, but it ain't funny because it's actually a part of you holding on to your kingdom because you don't want to say the words, I missed the mark, I came up short, I'm sorry. Some of you got to get good. You should memorize that phrase right there. I missed the mark, I came up short, I'm sorry. In fact, why don't we do it all together right now? I want you on the count of 3. If you want to grow in your faith in Jesus, if you want to decrease the amount of worry and stress in your life, if you want to get more in line with the life Jesus promised, you want to build his kingdom first, man, we got to get the clutter out of our heart. So we're going to say this phrase. I'm going to say it one time, then you say it with me. We're going to say, I missed the mark. I came up short. I'm sorry. Repeat after me. 1, 2, 3. I missed the mark. I came up short. I'm sorry. See how good that feels? You feel that? You feel that? Now, because I know some of you are lodged into the mountain of lodged into the mountain. We're doing it again because some of y'all didn't say it. I watched some of y'all. I saw some of y'all just sit there, and inside you was like this. You didn't say nothing, and you was like this. I ain't saying it. Fine, that's fine. So watch this. Peer pressure time. Don't look at me. Look at someone else in this room. Look at somebody else in this room. If you ain't gonna do it, you ain't gonna do it while someone watching you be rebellious, resistant to God's change in your life. Now don't you look at me. I don't want to see no eyes on me. Don't look at me. If you look at me, I'll call you out. On the count of 3, we gonna say, I missed the mark, I came up short, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, go. I missed the mark, I came up short, oh yeah, you feel that? Happy Mother's Day. He says this, seek first my kingdom, my way of doing it, my ideas, how you deal with the day-to-day. Don't do it the way the world does it. Don't do it the way your family system trained you. Don't do it the way you had to do it to survive things that were not fair, not right, not good for you. And you built the best tools you could as a child, as a teenager, to get out of that hellhole and to figure out those broken ways that were modeled for you. But you got here. We salute that you got here with those ways that you had to come up with on your own. But now that you've gotten here, guess what? What got you here ain't gonna get you there. We gotta change, we gotta improve, we gotta exchange these broken tools and ways of relating to conflict and disappointment and heartbreak and to our own failures. I know it's hard to admit failure when you were over-disciplined and not even just punished. If you were over-punished, it's hard when somebody wants to tell you something you did wrong now. Why? Because it was too much. So now you're like, I don't really want to hear all this. I heard it all. It's kind of like the home you grew up in. It done spent all the tokens of you're wrong. You're like, I ain't got no I'm wrong tokens left. I spent them being over-punished. Well, now you're an adult. Now you got a wife. Now she's trying to tell you some stuff that you wrong about, and you're like, what? I ain't got no tokens left. I handed them out. I handed them out for stuff I wasn't really wrong for. You hear me talking? Listen to me. There's some of you in this room. You have a hard time. I'm sorry. I missed the mark. I came up short. Why? Because you were forced to hand out all the I made a mistake, I missed the mark tokens for stuff you didn't make a mistake on, you didn't miss the mark on. It was because you had a messed up adult that was exacting their brokenness on you as a child or a teenager. So because of that, you were having to hand out all the tokens of, I'm sorry that you had a bad upbringing and now you're doing it to me. So you handed out too many I'm sorry tokens, and now you're an adult in an adult relationship, in an adult life, and you ain't got no more tokens. And then you need them to try to work out the stuff you going through, and you're like, I ain't got none. So Jesus comes to you and says, hey, seek first me, my kingdom, my righteousness. And then what does he say? What don't you have? What is he going to do? Read it with me. And all these things will be given to you. You can get your tokens back. You can get your tokens back. You can get those things back. You can get humility back. You can get the ability to go, I can say I'm sorry. I can say I missed the mark. I could get that out of my heart. I could say it. My kids could hear me say it. My wife could hear me say it. My husband could hear me say it. My parents could hear me say it. My parents could hear me, though I'm 14, say the words, Dad, I missed the mark. I came up short. I'm sorry. Mom, the way I spoke to you right there, I'm sorry. I was stressed on some stuff, and I took it out on you. That's another good phrase some of y'all should memorize. I took that out on you. Don't act like you don't take out things on other people. You ain't that perfect. Stop trying to do this perfect thing. You ain't perfect. Y'all trying to act like we are all like bamboozled by your like pursuit of perfection. Can I tell you something your family wants to tell you right now? None of them think you're perfect. So just stop trying to put this perfect picture up to everybody, and then anyone who like exposes or brings up that you want, hey, no, don't look at that. What are you doing? No, what? That ain't wrong. That's fine. No. We don't have to do all that no more. Why? Man, we walk in God's grace. We walk with God's providing and giving to us all the things we need. So we can come in and go, hey, honey, I was stressed about this. I was upset about this, and I took that out on you. In fact, once again, I feel like that's such a powerful phrase. We're going to say it together. I want you to type it into the box if you listen to it right now. We're going to get you right. So look at somebody else not named Pastor Chris and look at them and say, with as much exuberance as you possibly can, I took that out on you. Ready, begin. I took that out on you. Didn't that feel good to hear? Didn't it feel good to say? You can lie in church. I know it didn't. I'm helping you, church. I'm helping you. Verse 14, therefore, ready? I love this. Therefore, you know what the therefore is? Therefore is the equal sign of the equation he just gave us. If you do this equation, it will always equal this. Ready? 2 + 2 will always equal 4. It will never not equal 4. You know what Jesus said? If you seek first my kingdom and you do the things I've asked you to do, and you learn to declutter the heart, and you learn to say these things and be buoyant and address it, I will add the tokens back to you, and guess what you'll have? You'll be able to have a life that don't worry. He says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. For tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day got enough problems and troubles of its own. Some of us are so consumed with these ideas of the good old days. We're there and then back before. Or the good old days, oh man, one day hopefully we'll have some good old days. And can I tell you what Jesus is trying to help you see? The good old days aren't yesterday, and the good old days aren't tomorrow. The good old days are right now, today. And some of us are missing out on the good old days. Can I tell you something? In 10 years, in 15 years, when them kids are grown up and out your house, you could ask some of the folks in this room to raise their kids. They will tell you, I'm telling you the truth right now. You will one day long, wish, desire to go back to the days you live in right now, and you're missing it right now. You're so thinking about one day, someday, that you're missing today. And you ain't maximizing today, and then you'll get to yet tomorrow and look back at your today going, man, it was so, you know. And some of you will have regret because you misprioritized things. You didn't do things that should have been done in first place. You didn't seek God's kingdom first. You sought your kingdom first, and so you missed out on a bunch of the stuff God's kingdom would have trained and taught your marriage, your family, your world to be. You could have been a part of a church and you learn this stuff like all the time and go back and make it a part of your life, and your kids would have grown up different. And guess what? You have a chance to change that today. This thing ain't set in stone. This thing ain't forever. You could literally right now today walk out of this place and say, I'm changing that. I'm going to start staring at today differently. I'm going to start looking at it as the precious thing it is. I'm going to start seeing life not as a one day, someday, and then it'll be the good old days, or the yesterday and back then it was the good old days. But I'm going to start seeing this day, right now, this is my good old days. These are the good old days. Why? Because he says this, you don't got tomorrow promised. You don't know that you're going to get to see them babies again. You don't know that you're going to walk them girls down the aisle. My friend didn't think that. There's no way he knew that he was going to have 3 beautiful daughters that loved Jesus and that he wasn't going to walk one of them down the aisle. And see, that's the kind of perspective you get when you really go into it. And so I bring that back to you so I can share it. Listen. This is it. This is the best you get to have, because you don't get to live in the one day. And you can't live in the yesterday. You get today. And if you're so busy chasing tomorrow, you will miss your today. You will miss it. And Jesus says, nah, tomorrow's got enough worry of its own. Don't miss what you got now. This is the chance to get close to your kids. This is the chance to get on the floor and play at their level. This is the chance to put away your phone. This is the chance to turn the TV off and go outside. This is the chance to go do something and be something that's different. This is the chance to prioritize asking them questions. This is the chance to go into your teenager's bedroom and sit on their bed and put your back up against the wall and just ask them questions and offer no solutions and just listen and tell them how courageous they are and tell them that you think what they're doing is awesome and it's not easy and it was hard for you too. This is the chance for you to relate and go, you know what, I made same mistakes too, man. You all right? This is the chance for you to be able to get down on the floor with your grandkids. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not too long because your knees will hurt, but to get down there. Get on down there with them kids. Some of y'all really got blessed by that one right there. You're like, Pastor Chris, I know that's right. All right. We've been conditioned and trained to be afraid of everything going wrong for us. So because we've been conditioned and trained, because things have gone wrong for you, some of it is in your childhood experience, your teenage experience, your young adult experience. So you were conditioned and trained that you had better worry. Because if you ain't worrying, unfortunately, the adults weren't worrying about things that you needed them to worry about. So now you live in a state of worry. And God wants to come to you today and go, I want to exchange that. Take my yoke upon you. It's light. This thing you're carrying, heavy, not meant for you. It's not fair that some of you are carrying some of the worry you do. It's not your fault, but it is your issue. Did you hear me? It's not your fault, but it is your issue. Okay? Listen, I'm going to tell you this. You were born looking like your daddy and your mommy. Okay? But you're going to die looking like your choices. Do you hear that? Okay? So the stuff that you got, man, that's mom and dad. There's no doubt. There's no sidestepping stuff. I know it. Eliana's going to grow up someday. She's going to sit me down and be like, Dad, I wish you would have. I'm like, man, for real. I wish I would have too. It wasn't without effort, right? And I'll meet her where she's at, and I'll have to own and apologize for the broken stuff that I introduced to her life. That's just part of it. No shame, no judgment, just like real. But guess what? Some of us endured some gnarly kind of like stuff. Some of it was abuse, but some of it wasn't abuse. It was just neglect, or it was parents that were just consumed or just didn't know better. And, you know, we didn't do a lot of counseling back then. If you went to a counselor 25 years ago, that meant you was crazy. Not crazy like we all agree we're all crazy. Crazy like straight jacket crazy. You know, like the white van comes and picks you up and you gone. We don't see you no more. When you've been conditioned that you need to worry, listen, you have a hard time seeking first his kingdom, and you don't trust that he will provide for you like he does for the bird. And so it's up to you. If it's to be, it's up to me. That's an unbiblical idea that is lodged in some of your hearts, and God today wants to pull those weeds out of your mind and your heart. Say, hey, that's not serving you. That is not putting your trust in me. I'm a good God. I'm going to help you. I'm going to provide for you. We're going to work together. You will have to work. You got to put away and all the rest. But it isn't something where you got to shoulder all that stuff. And I think that what we end up doing is we reproduce generationally, and we train our kids that the good old days are either going to be tomorrow or they were yesterday, but they're not today, because we're always on the run to go do something else to get to tomorrow. And God's like, shh, slow down. What am I telling you? I'm telling you that I haven't done a very good job at this, I would say in the last year or two. Just as a dad, I think as, you know, I've missed out on some opportunities to go beyond my tiredness, my exhaustion, sometimes mental exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. But I came home, man, after watching them girls, and if they're watching it, you know, girls, I love you, and I'm just really grateful for the time we all got to spend, and look forward to when y'all come out here and you got a church waiting to love and care and be there for y'all. But watching and listening to these 3 baby girls of my boy, you know, when it was time to close his casket, wail for their daddy and call out daddy was one of the most heart-wrenching things I think I've ever experienced in my entire life. And it marked me, and I won't be the same after that. And I am grieving. I'm in a state of grief, and I know that. I could feel it. And so yesterday, you know, Brenda went out with some of her girls to go do like mom celebration. And so it was just me and Ellie last night. And I was tired. I'm jet lagged. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going to sleep at I want to go to sleep at 4 p.m. every night, and that's staying up late for me. I'm getting up at 2 in the morning, trying to go back to sleep, fighting it, doing all this stuff, right? So I'm tired. And I thank God for the daughter he's given me, because she was like, Daddy, let's go to the park. And I was like, all right, let's go. And I didn't want to get out, but then I remember, it's like, you know what? This is it. This is the chance for me to love my today. And not well, one day when I have more energy. I don't know if I'm ever going to have more energy than I have right now. So I got to just do it. And so I said, God, give me your strength, because I don't have it for me. And he did. He gave me his strength by allowing my daughter to have strength, to say, we can fill up these tires, because her bike had flat tires. So I said, all right. And then the flat tire, the nozzle wouldn't come out. And it was like, I don't know. I don't think we can do this. And she's like, Daddy, we got pliers. And so she went and got the pliers, came. She wanted to go to that park, boy, I'll tell you right now. And so we did that. And she goes, see, Daddy? And I got down on her level. And I knew I was missing it. I was missing it. I was kind of resisting to just jump through that, jump through my own emotional experience. And I got down on her level yesterday, and I said, Eliana, thank you. Thank you for leading Daddy today. You led me, because Daddy was having a hard time getting ready for us to go to the park. And if it was up to me, we wouldn't be doing this. And we are, and I'm so happy, and let's go do this thing. Thank you for being a strong leader. You're a wonderful leader, honey, and you led Daddy. She said, thank you, Daddy. She gave me a big hug, and I picked up the water ball and the soccer ball, and she got on her thing, and we rode off. And we had a blast, and we went there. We played soccer against each other, and I started doing these things. I seen this thing on Instagram about helping mobility by just jumping over the lines, and so then we were doing jukes, and she learned what a juke was, and she realized her dad has some speed she didn't know he had, and that was great. You guys hear that humble brag I just gave you? You see that? I'm sitting here telling you how bad of a dad I am. I had to give myself something. And then after that, I was like, you want to go watch the sunset at the beach? She's like, yeah. I was like, we'll go play. We play keep away from the ocean waves. So we run up, you know how it is. You run up all the way, and then when the wave comes, you book it out. And so we did that. And we made this memory. You know what that was? That was God in his grace and mercy helping me learn what I'm teaching you today. Know this, church, I can't preach and teach you things that I am only wonderful at. Do you know how small my sermon catalog will be if I only preach to you things I'm winning at? I have like 2 sermons that I can preach, and that would be it. But what I promise to always do with you is I will tell you the truth. I will tell you when I'm missing it, and I will invite you into the human experience I'm having with Jesus helping me as well. So how do you take this home, make this a part of your life? Well, I would encourage you to start your day by telling God one thing you're thankful for each day. Why? Because it'll bring you into today. And you go, what am I thankful for each day? What do I need today? I think that it's not the future. It's not one day, someday. It's not yesterday. It's today. What do I got today that I am not looking at that I can slow down and look at? And say it out loud. Verbalize it. End your day by telling your family one thing that you appreciated or you saw God doing, or where did you see God, or what are you thankful that you experienced that day? I think there's a couple ways you can stay present, and I'll give you a few of them to consider. Read together. Put your phone away. Have a time limit that you say, hey, phones go away. And if there's an emergency, like get a house phone or something. I don't know what to tell you on that one because I didn't really think through these. But I just got off a plane, y'all. I'm doing my best. Garden together. Go outside. If they're small kids, I'll tell you this. Some of y'all ain't been on the floor enough with your kids or grandkids. That's just a straight up truth that they live down here. And if you stay up here, you know how big you look compared to them? Play with them at their level. If you're a dad, there's this thing I've been learning about called, I can't remember what it's called, but it's where you make them feel like they're so much stronger than they really are, right? Where when they hit you, you just fall apart on the ground like, oh, why? Because they're so weak and small compared to you that they're always being told what, they can't do, don't this, don't that when you let them feel like they are just super strong, it's like this confidence booster. So do that with your kids. Obviously, don't do it if they're like 16. They're like, Dad, why did you fall down? That's weird. This is an age-appropriate advice, by the way. Just want to make sure. She'd be coming back to me next week. Pastor Chris, that didn't really work. My 7-year-old thought it was a trip. I embarrassed her, and she don't want to talk to me now. I was like, well. Volunteer as a family, right? Some of you as a family, you volunteer here at our city church. And I think it's brilliant. Some of you have watched your children grow spiritually because you made a determination. As a family, we will be at church, and we will volunteer and serve our church. Doesn't matter if pick the frequency you or family can do, but decide we're going to do, this is what we can do, and this is what we will do. And just decide to do that. Go outside, go to a museum, go to the zoo, ride the train, just go ride the train somewhere and just get away. But live in your day, live in today. You don't need to go on vacation. I spent 0 money yesterday. We had leftovers that were bomb, and we went to the park, kicked the soccer ball, ran around. She showed me that she could do this thing with her legs and hanging upside down on the monkey bars. And we rode the bikes and we played soccer against each other and we did a bunch of juke moves. And then we went and she made and then the water hit her up to her neck. And then of course that was to here on me. And she was like, Daddy, the water hit my neck. Now it's got to hit your neck. I was like, oh, I ain't trying to hear all that, I'm not, wait, I didn't sign up for this. But I was like, there's no way I wasn't going to do it. So I was like, all right, word, let's get it. So I went out, and then the wave came in, and I was like, I'm going to take it like a man right now. And then it came in, and I wasn't ready yet. I was like, you count to 3 to jump off the cliff, and then you're not ready. 1, 2, 3. It's like I wasn't ready, but then I got scared that I don't want to be like that one girl that tried to not do it, then fell down the cliff. I don't know if you saw it on Instagram. Real sad. And, oh, man. And so, sorry that didn't sound compassionate. I'm so sorry. That slipped out wrong. It's not funny. I felt bad. Wherever she is, Lord, right now, I pray you bless that woman. God, watch over her life. Provide her with a wonderful life. There, I feel better for laughing. You ever pray over people you laughed at? I just want to know the temperature of the room, okay? Have you ever laughed and you knew it was messed up that you laughed? And then you were like, but you're spiritual enough to be like, well, now I got to pray for him because I done laughed at him? Yeah. Some of you ain't done that. You just a bad person. At least you should pray, okay? At least pray. All right, let me get you out of here. Those are the ideas. That's what I think we ought to do. Listen, can you imagine real quick with me what would happen in your home if you did what we talked about today? What if you checked worry at the door? What if you started naming things in his kingdom that were different than your kingdom? Instead of preserving your own idea of perfection and self, what if you let go of that, gave that to Jesus and just said, you know what? You are who's perfect. I'm the one chasing and pursuing perfect, and I'm okay with some of my imperfections. It's okay. It's fine. You know what? I missed the mark. I came up short. I'm sorry. I took that out on you. Man, what would your kids, what would your wife, what would your husband, what would your parents, what would the people that work with you and under you, what would they experience if you normalized those 4 different phrases in your lives? It would transform the future, the current, the now, all of it. And you will be able to live in that wonderful space, Jesus said, the space where you get the tokens added back to you, where you have what you didn't have. And you get to live what you would have never lived. And you get his kingdom benefits instead of your kingdom's worry and stress. Let's go do that. Let's go give our world that. Let's give our homes that. Let's build a church that models that in this city together. Let me pray for you. Jesus, I thank you for your word. I thank you for your truth. I thank you that it's different than the way our world works. And so that's why we love it when we hear it. It's so different and so perfect and pure. And it cuts the part of my sinful humanity, my brokenness. It allows me to process like the stuff I see in me and I see in my community, in our church, in our world. And I thank you for that. I thank you for that wonderful experience. Thank you, God, that we get your kingdom as an option if we'll seek it. It's there, but we got to seek it and let go of our control, of our fear, of our need. And if we just, and we'll make it perfect, we got to present this perfect. God, I pray you would help some of us to heal from that pursuit so we don't get in trouble. We're not going to get in trouble no more. We don't have to keep trying to be perfect. We can let go of that because ain't nobody going to get us in trouble. We're not going to get told. We can begin to let you heal that so we're okay admitting the things that we come up short at. Nobody walking down the hall with a belt. Nobody coming down yelling, screaming. Nobody, hollering at us in the car before they drop us off at school. God, none of that stuff's happening. So I pray for those of us that this ministers to, God, that you would help us to be able to release that so that we can say, I missed the mark. I came up short. I'm sorry. I took that out on you. You didn't deserve that. That's my bad. And God, we would literally begin to introduce hearts that don't have as much worry and cortisol and stress so we can live the longer lives you have for us, God. Would you do that, God? That is really my prayer for my own life, my own self, and certainly for everybody here. And then use us lastly, God, to go into our homes and into our communities. Would you raise up our city church? Would you build this church to be what it can be, what this city and this region and what this world needs? God, literally, I know there are people all around the world, even today in South Africa, God, that are watching this and are going to watch this and are going to start watching this because they want a part of what we're building here. God, I pray that we would live it out and we would build a church that could, yes, hit this region. But God, would you send these types of messages around, not through these sermons, but through us as your people, your church, where we go live it and change people by us bringing up, here's what God's doing in my life, here's what I'm working on, and I pray it would set people free. This I pray over our church in Jesus' name. And everybody said,